Your hand is still raised, so I'm not sure if you want to say something.
We're supposed to be able to hear it.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to transfer over to Sean. Sean is the host.
Can you hear it? Are your speakers off?
But Sean is the host.
Why don't you put yours up? You want me to run the speakers? I heard it over there. No, that was mine.
Our council activity reports might have started, and then turned over to Neil, and changed the negative all in that order. If each of you could unmute while you're giving your report, and then mute yourselves again, please. First, the purpose of muting is to just make sure that we don't have too much background noise, and that everyone can hear whoever's speaking at the moment. As for meetings, we had our inaugural meeting of the Police and Fire Oversight Committee at the end of December. That went very well. I think that's going to be a good group. They're certainly engaged in the process. We'll see how that goes going forward. Preliminary intro meeting, and then we will for another meeting. I'll give it a otherwise, things I had to report, things that you likely have already seen. We had the Centricare webinar last week. We're fortunate to have Brandon Beach and Dr. Matthias here with us this evening to talk about COVID. Once we get through our consent agenda, I will move up COVID to before we start new business. So we had the seminar on Friday where we talked about what Centricare is doing to address the COVID-19 pandemic in our community. And then I'll just give an update, ongoing calls from reporters, an email this morning from PCA regarding the benzene treatment. There's of course a lawsuit that was filed against the PCA by a former employee who's alleging that he was passed over for promotions and things like that, a whistleblower lawsuit. And one of the things that he claimed was that the Pollution Control Agency could have saved millions of dollars had they dug up our site right away rather than kicking the can down the road and monitoring the situation before putting in a treatment plant. The lawsuit does not allege that the treatment plant is insufficient or that our water is dangerous, just that we could have saved money had we done it right the first time. I put out a statement on that earlier today since that news story is going to be hitting tomorrow. NPR is going to be doing a news story on the lawsuit. So I just wanted to get ahead of it as they did reach out for some comments for me. But I think Tarek sent them some pictures of what we're dealing with here now as well. We've had some meetings with local legislators on the issue. Talked to them about the costs that we've been facing in running the treatment plant and how the costs of the treatment plant have exceeded what we initially budgeted for. So hopefully there can be some legislative funding to offset some of those costs, if not this year, then next. That's all I have. So Councilmember Hertzberg, I'll turn it over to you, please.
All I had was the Public Works meeting before this one at 5 o'clock. And we had a couple items that are on our agenda for tonight to look at.
Jennifer, I'll just add in, if you can't hear any of us anytime, you can be the one person who has free reign to unmute and just yell at us to hold on. So, with that, Councilmember Slaney.
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Brett.
Okay, give me a second to unmute. I don't have anything official to report either.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
I also have nothing, Ed.
Thank you. Then we have some department head reports here, starting with Chief Wagner.
Thank you. Not a lot to report. I'm sure most of you have seen that we have had some pretty decent publicity lately with the sabbatical program. I've had numerous agencies reach out to me inquiring about it, kind of what we're doing, which I think is a positive thing. A lot of positive comments coming in, not just from law enforcement entities, retired police officers, but also general public who think it's a great idea and a good first step to kind of changing some things. A little bit of an update on the hiring. I don't know exactly how many applications we have. I think the last count we had 3 or 4 in. I don't know if we received any more since the articles were out there and the news reports were put out. We are looking at going up to Alec Tech on February 3rd. They have a kind of like a job fair up there. So we're looking to go up there and kind of market the department and the city as a whole to see if we can generate some interest in some of the new candidates coming out of the school. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. We've been very minimally staffed of late due to COVID, and then we still have one officer out on parental leave, so he should be coming back soon.
Does anybody have any questions for the chief? Okay, I will just add to the chief's report, I did also get a telephone call from somebody on Saturday who was deeply praising the sabbatical program. It was quite a lengthy conversation. So I just wanted to, I told her I'd pass it along. All right, Mr. Morgan.
Okay, thank you. First of all, due to the cold weather, we have taken a number of calls on the water freeze-ups. So far, we have not had any. There's just people concerned. I'd like to remind residents to monitor their water. If it does get to that 38 degrees, please give us a call. At that point, yes, we will start running our water. Also like to remind residents again, please clean your sidewalks around the hydrants also. Up at the Township Hall, the skating rink out there has been open for quite a while and will remain that way. The indoor rink is open, I believe it's on Saturdays and Sundays. Please follow I know it's on the website and in the paper. The trail, the original Glacier Lakes Trail Phase 1, that has been or will be submitted here in January. Again, that is first phase is from Bird Street over to County Road 130. Let's see, tree lights and the tree will actually be coming down likely this week, and the winter banners will be staying up though. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ron. Does anybody have any questions for Ron? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Overfine.
All right, I just participated in the Public Works meeting with Ron and Neil. And then also last week, I went with Megan to the Recovery Center. We met with them there, learned about their business and what they do. And then going back a couple of weeks, we had the inaugural police and fire meeting, which I attended remotely. And then, as you mentioned, Sean, we attended with the school a discussion with the legislators on the NPCA whistleblower lawsuit. That's all I have.
Any questions for Todd? All right, then. At this point, we have our public forum. I haven't been notified by anybody on the Zoom that they wish to talk in the public forum, but we do have a number of people in our meeting. So I will just note that this is an opportunity. We have 10 minutes that we schedule. If anybody wants to talk about anything that may be on or off the agenda, please use the hand raise feature in Zoom. We'll call on you one at a time. Depending on how many people there are, we'll divide that up by whether it's within the 10 minutes. We won't take any action on anything you talk about, but we can certainly listen to it. So if anybody would like to address us, now is the opportunity to do so. And you can just let me know by raising your hand in the Zoom feature. If you can't figure that out, then turn your camera on and wave at us. All right, I'm not seeing anyone. So if that changes, we'll go through our consent agenda. I'll keep an eye out for people, but we can circle back to public forum if we need to. So then we have our consent agenda. There are no minutes included this week, but we do have the vouchers listed on page 2, totaling $175,057.46. And with that, I would be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Also move.
I have a motion by Slaney. Is there a second? Mr. Hertzberg.
Second.
I have a motion by Slaney, seconded by Hertzberg. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Hertzberg?
Aye.
Ms. Slaney?
Aye.
Ms. Mack?
Aye.
Mr. Thielen?
Aye.
And the mayor is an aye. That does pass unanimously. All right. A couple of words of note. At 6:30, we have a public hearing on the Avon Plastics Minnesota Investment Program. And then we do have Dr. Matthias here from Centricare, along with Brandon Peach, who have talked to us, who have agreed to come talk to us about the COVID-19 situation in the community. So to be respectful of their time, certainly they've got better things to do with all that's going on. I'm going to move up COVID now and talk about the COVID situation. Dr. Matthias, Brandon, I was participating in the webinar from last week. I re-watched it just to get a feel for it. As I understand Centricare's request to the city right now, essentially you're looking for a city-wide requirement that we institute a masking policy. And as I understand the science behind that, if we can get to 80% masking, we can save 1,100 lives locally by the end of this pandemic. Could you speak a little bit more on what your suggestions are and where we're at?
Yes, this is Dr. Matthias. That's exactly right. And we did send out just a couple slides that kind of illustrates that point. There is some modeling that has been done that shows a significant improvement if everybody would mask. And right now, what we're trying to alert everybody to is the severe outbreak, and we're all aware of that. You're probably all hitting it in your businesses and schools. But right now, it is significantly affecting all of us and our ability to care for our patients. And the two main things that we're asking is, one, vaccination, and number two, masking, and masking any indoor places. And we're not asking for a shutdown or anything else, but we're really encouraging all of our communities to help us. And one of the biggest things you can do right now is to ask everybody to wear a mask. And unfortunately, Minnesota is not doing a real good job with that. I've traveled around, and other parts of the country are actually doing much better than we are. Right now, we have over 880 people, staff, that are right out, that are not able to work right now. And I suspect it's hitting all of your businesses as well. So that's a significant problem, besides the fact that we are literally out of beds. There's 101 positive COVID patients at St. Cloud Hospital right now. Our ICUs are completely full, and the majority of them are COVID patients. And we have 78 other COVID positive patients in the hospital recovering. We have 11 at Rice and at Redwood Falls, and 23 in the remainder of our regional hospitals. So it is affecting every one of our regional centers. And we are asking our regional hospitals to care for patients they would normally not, because we do not have room or ability to care for them in St. Cloud right now. So we're asking the entire region if they would consider taking a stand and helping us by asking our citizens to wear masks. We, as of tomorrow, will no longer allow visitors into our hospitals, other than rare exceptions. Someone who's dying or someone who's having childbirth. Other than that, we no longer allow visitors, and all our meetings have gone to virtual. There's some significant changes. This is kind of unprecedented. We went to 32.2% positivity rate today. That is much higher than we were a year ago when we had our other peak. So it is out there, it's in our community. Some of the slides that I'd send, if you want to look at those sometime, shows that significant as Delta was leaving, when Omicron came into Minnesota, and you're hearing stories across the rest of the state as well. So yeah, if you want to just go to the second or third slide.
This one?
Yeah, keep going for the next one, please. There you go. Go on before. Now keep going in the direction. Oops, yeah, go the other way if you can. And go backwards at all. There you go. Okay, a couple more. One more. There you go. Oh, there it is. Okay, so in the last week, we've done 11,400 tests, of which 3,678 are positive. Even if 1% of those people end up in the hospital, that's a significant number for us. But you can see this current peak started in July, and it's been a slow climb all the way through Thanksgiving and a little bit into December. Then we had a sudden drop, but now it's tremendously slow like we have right now. So that's a concern. The next slide real quick, please. This is the pediatric, and again, we have a concern about pediatrics like we do with Delta. And this is in the state. The data a little bit better, so we can hope that's going in the right direction. Just once demand sequences and across the country, they're setting records for the number of patients, number of pediatric patients affected by Omicron right now. Next slide. This is the modeling that I was talking about that you referenced at the very beginning. This is our slope, and this is our projection. So if you look at early January, that is our slug rise. If we do nothing, we will peak a significant high, and this is the daily infections and testing. The lower slope is if we put mask mandates in place, and we will be able to significantly decrease those numbers. And the next slide is about the number of deaths. You can have a lot more deaths coming. And again, you can significantly impact that by putting masks on. So those are the two projections we want to show. And the next slide, if you would, please. Statewide lack of ICU availability. If you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke, if you're in a bad car accident, we are not sure we have a bed for you right now. We also are very short on the number of outpatient treatment options that we have. First of all, there's very few to start with. But among those in the oil virus are limited from immune control from the weekly in the state of Minnesota. We're having to prioritize and ration treatments for certain patients. And not everybody's going to be able to receive this beneficial treatment, so we try to pick the patients who need it the most. Next slide. So what we've done, socially distancing, universal medical grade masking. If you come into our hospital, no longer can you wear a cloth mask. As of tomorrow, as I mentioned, no visitors, and we are rationing cares. So what does it mean if we get to crisis level of care? And we are making plans for getting to this point as a last straw. This would mean no access to ventilators, no access to the highest levels of care, no ability for clinical care, no access for surgeries. So this is as dire as we've ever seen it before. And we're asking everybody to do what they possibly can. Next slide, please. So I ask, we understand that this is hard and our communities are not uniform. We have lots of varying opinions out there. We've been there for you and we're here with you. We need consistency in our communities and we need partnership and leadership. We need masking requirements indoors everywhere. And we need limited public events and gatherings. So I appreciate that this meeting, even though they're not easy, this meeting is held by Zoom. And we are not asking for a shutdown. We are trying to avoid a sick out, I think is what it says behind there. So last slide, there might be one more. And so this is, again, the Minnesota projections, and that's the reason we're asking about the masking. And if there's a way that you would consider this, and if there's, at this point, I'll turn it over to Brandon if he has any other comments, and then Brandon and I will be open to answering any questions you might have of us.
Thank you, Dr. Mathias, for reviewing the information that was shared last week that Tarek and Sean were able to hear and participate in that meeting. I agree completely with the concerns that we're seeing when we look at our census here in Gainesville. We've been running higher census than we normally do. We currently have 2 active COVID patients. We have 6 other patients in the hospital that have recovered from COVID and are here for other reasons. And so it's certainly very, very prevalent in our community as well. Our staff has certainly been impacted by breakthrough cases, by other staff being out and so on and so forth. And it's definitely community effort for us to be able to hopefully get past these next few weeks, which is of most concern. Dr. Mathias talked about vaccination, which is always the best source of protection from COVID, but we know that there isn't enough time with the anticipated surge that we're expecting over the next few weeks for that to be effective. And I think that's really what's driving the request for communities to consider the importance of masking. I did want to just acknowledge too that Dr. Mathias, for those of you that have not met him before, he's the Vice President of our Medical Affairs and of our Acute Care Division, which is, I think, our hospital division within Central Care. So very much in this work, about as deep as you can get for the last 2 years, and very experienced and knowledgeable about how COVID is impacting central Minnesota and the people that we're here to serve. So with that, I would just open up to any questions for either of us.
So I will start. Excuse me. And then if anybody on the council has questions for either Dr. Mathias or Ms. Beach, just let me know by raising your hand and I will recognize you as appropriate. Brandon, I'm wondering if you can share on a local level if we've run into any rationing of care situations or talk about some of the difficulties that we might have had finding beds for patients who come into our hospital.
I think the most significant challenge that we have had is as people have come in that have required higher levels of care, we have not been able to transfer people up as quickly as we have been able to pre-COVID. And that's certainly a concern. Central Care has done some great innovation around COVID. We have a medical director of the day. Several of our specialty focus areas, whether it's the hospitalist or some of the specialty areas, have made themselves available to support our local providers in making sure that we can provide the best care possible. We have the fortunate to have a respiratory therapist on staff. That's been a tremendous resource for our community. As we've had many patients that have been ventilated and placed on respirators, either to continue treatment here at the hospital or being transferred to higher levels of care. And that doesn't mean transferring them to St. Cloud. It might be transferred to Fargo, it might be Metropolitan. I was on a call earlier this week that one of the other central care facilities had been able to make a placement in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So it's just very, very difficult to find a placement for patients that are requiring higher levels of care. And obviously that's noise improvement pretty much that's up from the
Dr. Mathias, how much of the bed shortage that you talked about is due to terminated staff who refuse to get vaccinated versus caseload?
Yeah, it's due to a couple of reasons, but actually the most recent number as of today is we have 142 out of our 12 or 13,000 employees that are on leave because they refuse to get vaccinated. So it's a very, very small number. A bigger number, however, is those that have left the profession. And this is scary for us, what healthcare is going to look like in the future. It's a lot of people, a lot of my age that are choosing to just retire, a lot of people who are feeling burned out, a lot of nurses who have left because they can make a lot more money being a travel nurse. And so we have lost significant numbers of nurses. So when we talk about beds, we talk about staffed beds. So that's one of the main reasons, and that's one of the big differences between this surge and the one we had a year ago in November and December, is we just don't have the number of employees we did before. But it is actually a very small number of those who have left us because they chose not to go along with the vaccine mandate. We have over 1,000 patients, or 1,000 employees who were given the religious exemption. And so we still have a number of those, and now they are weekly testing, which is the requirement.
And perhaps just for reference, St. Paul's Hospital typically staffs around 400 beds. It might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. I think it was high, I think 420, 425. In Painesville, we can handle about 12 patients with our three-part here and staffing that we have here. We have been running as high as 14. I think today we have 8 in the hospital. Our ER volumes have been tremendously busy. In our family medicine providers that cover the ER certainly help that into well as people have come in for care.
I can say that you are very lucky in Painesville to have a dedicated medical staff who has done way more than they ever thought they probably were going to have to do. We have a leadership who is dedicated to the community, and they have done an amazing job taking care of some very, very sick patients. At times, we've had patients that have to stay in the emergency department because there is no place to go, and there's nowhere else that we can put them in there. We're waiting. Brandon mentioned our medical officer of the day, so they're put in place just to help our regional hospitals out with patients they're not normally used to taking care of, to make sure we're offering the best care that we possibly can to them until like that at a higher level facility would open up. And these are phone calls happening every single day from every hospital in the state right now.
Guys, one more question, then I'll turn it over to the council for theirs. Dr. Mathias, can you talk about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine and expand on Brandon's comment on why there's just insufficient time to push the vaccine alone?
You bet. We do know that it does take the vaccine a while to build up immunity, and we are predicting the next 2 or 3 weeks. Their next model is at the very end of January, we're going to hit our peak. So we hope to have things in place in the next couple weeks. It is never wrong to get the vaccine. We're just not sure it's quite going to be there. What we also don't know, and I just heard on the 5:30 news tonight, is that both Pfizer and Moderna are working on an Omicron variant vaccination or booster. And so we know the science is there that we can tweak this virus. It has been an incredibly effective virus. Yes, those of us that have had the vaccine are still getting Omicron, but we're not ending up in the hospital, we're not ending up in the ICU. The rare exception may be someone who's really sick with all multiple comorbidities. They could potentially get sick even from the vaccination. But the majority of the people in our ICU and the people on ventilators for weeks and sometimes months at a time are typically the person who has not been vaccinated. Therefore, it has done what it was designed to do, which keep people from dying and becoming extremely sick and ending up in our ICU. So hopefully that answers your question, Sean.
Yes, thank you. And then I'll turn it over to Councilmember Phelan. Neil, I saw your question as well. I just saw Paul's hand first.
Hello, thank you for giving us that presentation. As you know, that when we live on the other end of the county, sometimes we feel like we're forgotten. And it's nice to hear it from the people higher up of what's happening. But there's one issue that I have here is that some of the residents have asked that this be voluntary instead of mandated. because it's their opinions, for whatever reasons that they have, and usually because of which news show they watch is going to sway their opinion. So either way, if this gets mandated in our town, the temperature here is going to rise significantly. The other thing that I'm worried about is if this will be, something with Sean and Paul Wagner, is how is this going to be enforced? So that's all I have for the comment on that one. Thank you.
You bet. And you're right, it is a challenge, and we've never seen our country more divided over a number of different things, but this is one of them. Whether it's the vaccine or whether it's wearing masks and a mandate and things like that. What our stance has been and why we've insisted on our employees getting the vaccination is we feel we have a responsibility to everybody besides ourselves. And yes, you can take your own personal responsibility, but we also think in our profession especially, we feel we have a larger responsibility, and that's kind of what we're asking you as a city council to think about, is does everybody have the responsibility to keep people safe? The problem with Omicron is right now is the number of people that one the symptoms that are out spreading it. I have 3 grandchildren in Texas. All 3 of them have been exposed to other people in their school and teachers.
Dr. Mathias, I think we may have lost you there. Well, we'll see if Dr. Mathias comes back. Neil, is there a question that you could ask Brandon?
Yes, there's been a lot of talk on the Pfizer oral pill. When may that be available, and is it as good as what the news people would say?
I think Dr. Mathias could probably address that a little bit better. I can tell you that we started receiving the oral vaccine or oral medication within the last couple of weeks. Secretary has been putting in the policies and procedures for that, and it is being currently offered in Gainesville as an option for consideration in lieu of the monoclonal infusion treatment. But there are pretty strict criteria for both monoclonal and the pill form, and so those are all being evaluated prior to being able to be administered to patients. But they are available presently.
Thank you.
It is
They're very
6:30.
limited though, I can tell you that much.
It is 6:32. Dr. Mathias, I believe us. I'm hoping he can come back. Brandon, do you have a few minutes that you can stick around? We can break from this, take our public hearing, and then come back.
Sure, that's fine if you happen to.
Okay. And then Chief Wagner, can your question wait until we come back?
Yep, not a question, more statement.
Okay, so then it's 6:33 by my clock. I will close the business portion of our meeting. I will open us for the 6:30 Avon Public, Avon Plastics Minnesota Investment Program Public Hearing. Is there anybody here either on the Zoom call or present in the council chamber to speak on the public hearing? If anybody's on the Zoom call, I'd ask that you raise your hand to talk about it. And while we wait for that, I did get a comment from a member of the public earlier today that was sent out on your agenda. This resident indicated, quote, "I am definitely opposed to any expansion of Avon Plastics. The noise coming from that place is deafening, and the forklift guys in the middle of the night are ridiculous, driving around and doing nothing." Dr. Mathias, I see you're back with us. We're going to come back to you. We just had to move on to a public hearing that was set to start at 6:30. The resident said the noise is day and night and spoils the use of my deck and grilling area. Windows have to be closed at all times. Thanks. That came from Angie Ahrens earlier today, sent to me. She indicates she lives across the road from Avon. I see that Ann Hawkinson has her hand up. Ann, If you could unmute, if your video is capable, it's great, thank you.
Oh, I'm here from Avon Plastics. I just wanted to let you know I'm here.
Perfect. Could either you and or Tarek tell us a little bit about what's going on and what you're asking us to do today?
Yeah, I can give you an update, but since Ann, you're here, if you want, maybe explain the program to them, and if you want me to, say what we've been doing behind the scenes since then, I can do that as well. But go ahead, Ann.
Yeah. So we are looking at expanding our wash line, so it would not make any more outside noise. It's something internally that would be actually condensing and making more efficient inside of our plants. So when we take big milk jug bottles or Tide detergent bottles, for example, that's HDPE, the number 2 symbol on your recycling metric, and we take that and we send it up to Little Falls and we have that ground up, and then we bring that back to our facility in Painesville and we wash it, and then we pelletize it, and then we use it internally. We also sell some of that raw pelletized material to other manufacturers as well. So we are looking at taking a larger footprint, an inefficient footprint, and making it smaller and more efficient, and almost doubling our output with that expansion. Was that a good enough synopsis? Okay, perfect.
I'm by me, Tarek, do you have anything to add?
No, just, we've been in touch with Deed even today, and, I think everything is moving as planned. So I think, Ann, when you mentioned you're looking at kind of getting things going towards the third quarter this year, or maybe you mentioned October this year, to try to get things going, and that's why we need to get this, a program approved if we are to proceed with it.
That is correct.
Okay, is there anybody else here to talk about the public hearing? I'm not seeing anyone. Any member of the council have any questions for either Ann or Tarek about this? Yeah.
Yes, the Avon is definitely still in the industrial. Across the street, Angie, which is the old greenhouse, what is the zoning on that?
Jennifer, do you happen to know that off the top of your head?
I do. That parcel there is actually in the township. It is not a city parcel.
And does the township have any type of zoning indication on that property?
Give me 30 seconds. It looks like they have it zoned industrial municipality. From what I can tell on their township official zoning map. And I'm not sure what that actually means, but I believe it's called industrial municipality.
Thank you. Any other questions for the public hearing? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So then with that, I will close the public hearing on the Avon Plastics, reopen our city council business meeting. And if we're all okay with jumping around a little bit again, I would jump ahead to old business item B and look for a motion to approve local government resolution 2022-06, the Minnesota Investment Program. Unless anybody has any other discussion on this program before we make a motion. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Can I get a motion from someone on the council? Mr. Richard.
make the motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Hertzberg. Ms. Brick.
Second.
And I have a second. Is there any further discussion on this? And hearing and seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Hertzberg?
Aye.
Ms. Flanagan?
Aye.
Ms. Brick?
Aye.
Mr. Feeler? Oh, Paul, let's try that again. Let's unmute first.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. That does carry unanimously. Thank you. All right. Going back to CentraCare, gentlemen, thank you for sticking around with us. And back to our COVID discussion. Dr. Mathias, when you're locked up on you, the question was asked about the availability of the new Pfizer oral antiviral drug. And Brandon talked a little bit about that, talked about some of the supply issues that we may be facing as well. But maybe you could better address the question.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. Again, I apologize for my computer, but joys of living in a rural area. The state is controlling pretty much a lot of the different medications. There's actually an old antidepressant that we're using that is equally as efficacious as some of them. There's a couple new oral medications that you want to take. The problem is they're not easy. It's like 4 tablets 4 times a day, and some challenges with a couple of them. But they're still better than nothing in a lot of people. Some of them have a efficacy rate that's a little bit lower. So if you can't get the monoclonal antibodies, this is better than what we've had before, but it's not necessarily a cure-all, and it should be something that people should have a lot of confidence in. With the volume of patients getting sick right now, we just don't have that many. We're trying to control this throughout all of CentraCare, so we know everybody in our system, and we're calling positive patients to give them some sort of oral treatment or an IV treatment, depending on their risk factors. So it's complex, and we continue to monitor this almost on a daily basis, depending on what the state's going to be able to do as well.
Neil, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Paul, you had a comment.
Yes, just to answer Councilman Dielen's question, you had asked about the enforcement of some type of a mandate. Much like we did during the last mandate that the state had imposed, in that particular situation, we were put businesses and anybody who was not, who had complaints on that to MDH. We are not, as law enforcement, we really can't be in a position to sit here and go around and be the mask police. This is a very polarizing topic and issue, and the last thing that we can afford, and I can afford as the head of public safety, is to have my officers getting into physical confrontations over telling somebody to put a mask on or leave the store. So I don't know how that looks. I think my guys, in the police department would be, I don't know that those physical confrontations will happen, but I know they have happened in the past, not necessarily with us. So, it's kind of a volatile thing, and I just, take that into consideration when we look at stuff like this, is what is our ability to actually enforce it, and what does that look like?
Dr. Mathias, could you talk a little bit about the rationing of things like the monoclonal antibody treatment and how CentraCare has been able to get less and less of that recently?
Yeah, we were giving about 200 doses a week when our positivity rate was a lot lower than what it is now. The problem with Omicron is only one of our monoclonal antibodies is effective any longer. That's how much this particular strain has changed. There's only one monoclonal antibody that's now effective. So you can imagine all over the country if everybody has had to shift to that one. So the CentraCare, all of our hospitals together are only allotted 80 doses a week right now. And so you can imagine we have a lot more patients than that. So we've had gone to a scoring system. And so those that are sickest, either with cancer or if you're pregnant, or there's a number of different things. If you have a score of 4 or more, are you getting that current drug right now? So it is all following MDH guidelines at this point in time, and we're trying to treat as many of our patients as we possibly can, but that's the changes that have happened to us over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. And lastly, can you just describe sort of in layman's terms how the mask works? I know we've all heard the comment that it's just a piece of paper covering my face. How does that actually protect us?
It protects us more in two ways. One, it protects those around you from if you're positive and you don't know it, that you're safe and you are not exposing them because this is an airborne virus. The other thing is when you go into an area and you're walking through or sitting with someone, you're not breathing in the particles that they're emitting into the environment. Now the danger is when we're sitting with somebody, and this is where most people are getting infected, is when we're eating, because we're taking off our mask and we're sitting for extended periods of time. We're finding it even in our own break rooms. But that's a very common place that people are getting infected. And so that's how a mask works. There are medical grade masks, which is the mask that we all wear, or the N95, which is a respirator when we're dealing with a patient who is COVID positive, that are even more effective in keeping virus particles out. But anything is better than nothing, even the fabric mask that we've been wearing for quite some time. Omicron is just proving to be that much more difficult and that much more infectious.
And then, of course, we've all heard the claims that the mask will just build up carbon dioxide. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, no, there's no truth to that. There's all kinds of studies on that one as well. And if there was a problem, think of all of our surgeons who are doing these 9 and 10 hour cases, the problems that they'd be having if that really was the case. And so there really isn't anything to that. It's very safe. If you look at all of our young kids, they've gotten so used to it, they don't think anything of putting on their mask in the morning and stuff. I know, and again, it depends on what news show you're watching and things like that. But the science and, the other thing that's discouraging, in the first time in my career, and I've been a physician for many, many decades now, this is the first time people don't trust us anymore. They don't trust what we're telling them or what we're suggesting to them and think we have ulterior motives for what we want to do in their treatment plan. And so it's a discouraging time for all of us. Nobody wanted to be here 2 years from when this all started, that we're still dealing with this pandemic and talking about putting masks back in place.
Thank you. Megan, you have a question?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I'm not sure no matter what we decide, it's what we decide, but I don't want to do it or not do it because, I'm the only one on the council, who works right now in the retail industry, and we have to refuse service for a lot of things. I work at the liquor store and I need to refuse service if they look underage and they don't have ID, or if they're obviously intoxicated, or if they have a fake check, and all those things have happened. And it's never a fun thing to do, and we never like it. But I don't want to either do the FISC or not do it because we're concerned about that. I understand what everyone's saying, and it's something that we need to take into consideration. However, I don't think that needs to be the make or break for any of us. So.
I appreciate that. It's a challenging time right now, and I think what we're asking is just by making a statement or even encouraging people right now, it's better than what we're currently doing. And we're just worried. I don't think people realize what our hospitals are facing right now and how close we are to this incredibly dire situation. And that people, yes, we all want to go back, we want to travel, we want to go out, we want to have dinner and all the other things. But we just need to get through this surge right now, and we're trying to protect. And that, I think, really what government is for, is to help keep our citizens safe too. And so we're just asking to consider that.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for Dr. Mathias or Brandon? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I had an idea while we were talking, so I'm going to make this motion because I can, and that way nobody else is trying to remember what craziness is going through my head. And then if somebody wants to second it, they can. Basically, my motion would be to require all people entering any city-owned or leased property to wear a mask. That would be all city employees, anybody coming to the DMV, anybody coming to the liquor store. When they're indoors, we mask up. Preferably in a medical grade mask, but at least in something cloth. And that anybody working the counter in either of those places can refuse service to anybody who refuses to mask. We have availability and options for curbside service at the liquor store. There's Dropbox, DMV. I think we can refuse service or work with people who might not be able to mask up. So I would make the motion to require masking at all city-owned property. And then I would also, as part of that motion, authorize the city administrator to buy $405 gift cards for chamber clerks. That could be given to police officers, the liquor store. He can pass out to ladies at the DMV as well. They have a set number a day, and they can give them to random citizens who are wearing a mask indoors as an incentive to mask in any place around the community. So if somebody's out and about wearing a mask inside an establishment, then or if they come to the counter at the DMV or in the liquor store wearing a mask, then an employee would have the choice of rewarding them with sort of a $5 gift certificate to a local business. That's my motion. If anybody has any questions, I can explain it further. Jennifer, if you need me to clarify, please let me know. Otherwise, is there a second? Okay. I'm not seeing a second, so I will consider that to have died for lack of... Oh, Megan, you just raised your hand.
Oh, and I just wanted to say that I would be either way abstaining as it does not pertain to me, so, or I mean, as it pertains to me and my job and my coworkers, so that's why I am not right now.
I don't think that you would have to, but I appreciate why you would.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then that one will have died. I'll consider that one to have died for lack of a second. Does anybody else have a motion they would like to make? Paul, I see your hand up.
I can understand the public aspect of this, and I'm all for that. But as far as using some sort of monetary incentive, I think we should hold back on that just to see how this is going to be taken at first. Because the way I see it is it takes away from the importance of being medical and the one of being rewarded. So I will second that motion. But with it amended as waiting on the gift cards.
Well, my motion died for lack of a second, but what I hear you saying is that you're making a motion for masks to be required indoors at any city property, such as the DMV and the liquor store.
That is correct.
Okay? And then the right to refuse service to anybody who's not wearing that, are you including that as well?
That is correct. Otherwise, it takes away from the whole idea of it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Thielen. Neil, I see your hand up.
I will second that. Just wondering if we want to put a time period, 2 or 3 week, or until the numbers come down from the COVID. I guess maybe that makes some more sense to keep until the COVID numbers decline.
Dr. Mathias, would it make sense to judge timeliness on this by saying that the requirement would remain in effect until Centricare is no longer rationing care?
What a lot of communities do is they go by the positivity rate and have a set number, and once it drops below that, it's less likely to be as contagious, and you might be more comfortable saying that people indoors could relax the requirement of a mask.
Do you have a recommendation on what that positivity rate might be? I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, you know, in our hike, we got to just about 20%. It dropped, now it's up over 30%. Most communities will tell you anything over 10% is a significant infection. They really wanted us to be about below 5. But you could say 10 or even 15, then it's certainly down from the peak that we have right now. And one thing we're looking with Omicron is it goes up real fast and then comes down, hopefully just as quickly. And so that could be weeks or a month from now that you could be back under 10% or 15%, whatever you choose. But at least it would be a number that you could monitor. And you could go by CentraCare's number, which includes all of our Painesville testing.
And Brandon, is that number something you have access to, or email you maybe on a weekly basis? You could provide him with that?
I sure can. I see it 3 times a week. And I believe it's available daily.
Yep.
Great. So Neil, you seconded it, and what I heard was sort of an amendment to the motion, which is that it would be in effect until a certain period of time. Are you comfortable with it being in effect until the positivity rate drops below a certain percent?
Yes, I think my recommendation at this point would be 12. And revisit it when it's at 12 or below.
Okay. So then, all this was your motion originally. Would you accept Neil's amendment as a friendly one so that we don't have to vote on it? That this would be in effect until positivity rate drops below 12%?
I would, excuse me, I would agree with that number, but also if we could add or until notified by the mayor or the city council or something like that, because if there's lag time or whatever, people I think would rather hear it from those in the city, because we communicate a lot more with the people here. So that's what I would recommend.
I think that if Tara, if you want to reach out to Brandon on a weekly basis and get that number, and then once you get that from him, I would think that the way the motion is set up, since this is city property only, you could then just send out an email saying this is no longer in effect according to the motion passed on this hearing date.
As soon as positivity hits 12%? Okay, yeah, I can be in touch with Brandon on a weekly basis.
All right, so we have a motion to require masking indoors at all city-owned property and businesses. Bill, I see. I'll get to you in a second. And that's going to remain in effect. The motion contemplates that remaining in effect until positivity drops below 12%. That is the motion. Discussion. I see Bill Ludwig has some comments.
Just clarification, asking, are we supposed to refuse service to people that are not aware?
The motion that I made, I would say yes, but Paul, this is your motion, so how did you interpret that?
Well, we can't be making exceptions for those who just don't want to wear it. That's just going to defeat the purpose. And if they're only going to be in there for 3 or 4 minutes, I don't think it's going to really put a dent in their day if they have to just wear it for a couple of minutes. So I would say refuse service, and I hate to put the pressure on anyone else, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that.
And then Chief, your comment here. And then I will note, sorry Chief, to cut you off. I see a couple of things in the chat box. Just a reminder to everyone, we're not going to use the chat box here for official business. We would not have the ability to pass notes to one another in a regular council meeting. So we're not going to use that tonight either. It's in case anyone has tech difficulties, but otherwise, if I ignore your comment, I'm not trying to be rude, just making sure that everything is on the record here. Chief.
So I guess 2 questions. Well, I had 2 questions. I've got one that I can remember. So when it comes to staff that are in offices by themselves and not near the public, what is the council's position? I've got a secretary who sits back there basically by herself, has very minimal contact with anybody, except when she goes up front, and I can certainly understand and see that, but it would seem silly to ask her to sit and wear a mask in her own space where nobody else is there.
Dr. Matthias, what does the science say on that?
I can tell you what we do. When we're in our offices and we're able to close the door, we take our masks off. When anybody is around us, I think you'd have to make the separate opinion on how big a space is she in and how often are other people in that space as far as, but all of our staff are in their mask all the time when anybody else is around. But that's the best we can do. But I think you as a council need to decide, you know, if there's some latitude on what you're asking.
I think that makes sense. Councilmember Thielen, would you agree to another friendly amendment that says masks do not need to be worn if a person could safely set off a glitter bomb in their office and not get glitter on anybody else?
That's a very good way to put it, but I will agree with it.
Thielen, you seconded that motion. Does that make sense to you, and are you agreeable to that?
Yes, it sounds good. I guess my comparison would be, you see people wearing a mask driving a car and there's only one in. And that's, makes me scratch my head, but whatever.
Yes.
All right. Okay, going back to Bill Ledbetter.
If I can just make a comment, maybe a couple comments. You know, in the last 2 years, we've all gone through a lot of changes. But right now, we're struggling to get product, we're struggling to get staff. I have been through a situation where we had to mandate a policy in my former life, and it was the worst time in my life, and I don't ever want to go through that again. I am concerned about that with my staff. Right now, we're very short-handed. So I am concerned about us telling people that they have to wear masks. And we work really hard to build that business. So I am concerned. Is it that the public safety? Maybe I'm selfish, I try not to be. But to ask a young lady to tell somebody they have to leave because they don't have a mask on, are they going to come back? That's my concern. And it puts us in a really hard spot. It's not fun for any of us. You know, last time we did, we had the mask right there. People could use them. A lot of people did that. But it got to be such a political thing. Everybody has their opinion and they're like a bar. People want us to hear their opinion. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Gene, I see your hand, but Jennifer, I saw yours up first. Jennifer, if you're trying to talk, you are muted.
I just want to speak on behalf of the staff up front in City Hall. I just want to know it on the record that this does pass. We are already called every swear word in the book in the DMV. Our skin has had to get really thick over the last few years. It's had to get stronger backbones and thicker skin over the last 2 years. If it does pass, I believe that the stress level at the counter with larger people is only going to increase. And I want to know what we can tell the rest of the staff that are on this Zoom call tonight, how they're going to be protected from angry citizens.
My thought would be, and Cart's got his hand up, so I'll turn to him before coming back to Gene's question so that he can answer Jennifer's. But my thought would be that if they are angry and yelling at you, then, or at one of our staff, they are asked to leave, and our police department is promptly called to escort them out. Cart, can you answer that?
No, I was going to just add to what Jennifer was saying, because yeah, I did see some of that last time. I mean, is there a way where we can, instead of mandating it and refusing service, try to find a way to encourage them to do so, but not refusing service if they choose not to? And I've seen some businesses over the past weekend that I went into down the Minneapolis area, and they weren't requiring it, but they're highly encouraging it for their customers. So could we do something like that instead of having a mandate where, like Jennifer was saying, and like Bill was saying, if you come in, you don't wear a mask, I don't want to wear a mask, okay, we can't serve you. You know, that's not a good situation to be in. But if there's a way to say, you know, we highly encourage you, and this is why, this is what we're hearing from our local healthcare provider, they're requesting that we do this, they're requesting that everybody take extra precautions over the next few weeks, etc. So is that an option versus making it a refusal of service? That's my thought.
It's muted G when I called it. Yeah, that's my bad.
Okay. No, I kind of feel the same way. We could do more harm than good. We're going to lose customers. The businesses are struggling now, and I agree with Tarek that we should try and encourage it, but not refuse service. I think it's putting a lot on the employees. I used to have customers come in screaming at my help, and I said they shouldn't have to deal with that. They should contact us as a council, you know, to complain, but it puts them in a bad situation. You're muted still.
Thanks. Neil?
Yes, I guess I agree that maybe our motion should be to highly recommend masks, have signs that show this, but not absolutely refuse service in light of what it does to our employees and our liquor store business.
Okay, Tina, see your hand is up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think we should have signs saying that masks are required. I don't say we should just have it as a suggestion. It should be required, but I just don't feel we should refuse service if they refuse to wear it.
Megan?
I guess I just have questions about what that would look like then, because to me required means required. And what does that look like to encourage? Does it mean we ask people when they come in? What does that mean? Just for clarification for me and anyone else. I feel like no, that's okay. I feel like that's kind of just leaves us where we are now, which if that's what we decide to do, then that's what we decide to do. But I don't see the difference in, you know, I guess I'm just confused as to what that would look like. So if anybody wants to clarify for everyone, I think that'd be great.
No, I have no further comment, but yeah, I agree with what I'm hearing so far.
I guess my comment is requiring it, but if they refuse to wear one, we're not going to throw them out or refuse service. That's where I'm standing with the clarification. We offer them a mask, but we don't, you know, if they refuse to take it, it's not the staff's job to make them wear it, just to suggest it.
I'm not seeing any further hands. I will just add my last comments, which is I think that this should be required. We heard from Dr. Mathias, who is infinitely wiser in these things than I ever could be, that their projections are 80% masking could save 1,100 lives at the end of this pandemic. I don't think that a liquor store business is worth 1,100 lives, that we have to make a choice, and I'm not going to let the almighty dollar rule my vote. So the motion, as I understand it, is for mask required at City Hall. The requirement would be that all people within any city-owned businesses wear masks when indoors, and that staff refuse service to anybody who's not, and that staff within an office by themselves where they don't have contact with other people can remove it, but otherwise would wear one. That's the motion as I understand it from the amendments that have been made. I'm going to call for a vote on that motion now. If it fails, we certainly have the opportunity for more motions, but that's what I understand, and that's what we're voting on. So, Councilmember Hertzberg.
No.
Councilmember Suckney.
No.
Councilmember Brett, abstaining?
Yes.
Councilmember Thielen.
I would add an amendment to that.
It's too late, you can offer a new motion if it fails. Which actually...
Okay, sure. Okay, I'll vote on this one, no, but I would like to make a new motion.
And a yes on that, the motion does fail 3-1. Paul, you've indicated you have a new motion.
Yes, I would like to make a new motion to have mask in public, or Haynesville-owned properties until the 12% threshold is met. But with letting at the liquor store, letting the customers have an option of wearing a mask that's present there if they decide not to, would probably be in the best interest to say, we'll let it go this time, have a nice day, we're all worried about you. Something like that. We're not going to drive business away, and again, make the temperature in the surrounding area here rise because of that. So basically giving you 1 or 2 strikes. Okay, try to remember it next time. Sean, can you reword that for me? I kind of rambled on.
Yep, so as I understand your motion, Paul, and you tell me if this is yea or nay, the motion is for a mask requirement within all city-owned and leased property for anybody indoors until the positivity rate drops below 12%. It is a requirement, but it's not going to be closely enforced. If somebody's openly violating it, staff do have the right to refuse service for any reason. But otherwise it's required, and I assume the same exception applies for any staff who are alone in an office, not interacting with anyone else. Is that your motion?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a second? Neil, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I just want to make the same stipulation for City Hall, not to refuse anybody, but to ask them, and the same thing, please wear a mask next time. And with that, I will second.
Thank you. My understanding was that it applied to City Hall and the liquor store, but thank you for clarifying. Jennifer, I saw your hand was raised. Was your question answered?
You answered it.
Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, okay, all those in favor, Neil?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Megan, are you abstaining from this as well? I see you had none. Okay, Paul?
Aye.
And I am an aye. 4-0, that motion will carry. Okay, Dr. Mathias, is there anything else that we as a city can do to help Centric here?
No, thank you very much for the conversation, and I appreciate the challenging spot we're all in. And so we're in this together, so thank you very much.
And on behalf of the city, my heartfelt and deepest thanks to you and Brandon for all that you guys have done throughout the last 2 years to take care of us. We literally would not be here without you someday, so we owe you a debt of gratitude, and hopefully when this is all over, we can all get together for a beer or a drink of your choice.
I would look forward to that. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, and with that, we will move on to our regularly scheduled programming, new business item A, the wastewater treatment facility plan update. Ron, could you tell us about this, please?
Okay, thank you. If you recall, back in 2019, we completed the phase 1 of the wastewater expansion. And as well as the BOD went from 4,000 pounds up to 4,500 for AMPI. That included the lift station, the piping, and the new headworks building out there. And the reason again for doing that is to, when we get to phase 2 here, so we can deal strictly with AMPIs, would be considered an industrial byproduct rather than a municipal waste. And when we get to the regulatory world through the MPCA, that is a huge difference. And I guess we're to that point where we do need phase 2. If anybody recalls, last summer we did have quite a bit of overloading. Public Works was able to look at this tonight, and they strongly suggested that we move forward with it. We did not have enough members for a vote. But the new facility, what we would be looking at is a new irrigation basin, additional blowers out there, clarifiers, and some type of biosolids handling. Chuck, can you add on to that?
Sure, maybe just to add on what Ron mentioned, really this was a planned, phased approach as AMPI continues to grow and they need additional capacity at the wastewater treatment facility. The first phase, as Ron mentioned, did allow them to expand a little bit, but this one was planned to sort of as a continuation of that project to allow them to grow. So the process would be to work with AMPI to establish what their new projected limits would be at the facility, and based on those new limits, we would determine what exactly would need to be done as part of the phase 2 project and identify the magnitude and cost.
So with that, we would be looking for a motion to authorize Bolton and Mink to update the wastewater treatment facility plan. Neil?
Yes, I have just one comment. The city would be paying for this, but would be getting reimbursed from AMPI, if I'm understanding correctly. And with that, I'll make the motion to authorize Bolton and Mink to update the wastewater treatment facility plan in the amount of $16,500.
I have a second from Gene. Ron, you had a comment or your hand was up.
Yes, just to add on to Neil's comment there, this would be AMPI's project bonded through the city. For this year's study, the 16.5 would come out of the pre-treatment capital improvement.
Thank you. So then I have a motion to authorize Bolton and Mink to update the wastewater treatment facility plan in the amount of $16,500. Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none. All right, I'll call for the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan? Paul? All right. And it's an aye for me. That does carry 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Moving on then to the city shop remodel. Ron, can you tell us about this?
Okay, I'm working on getting a plan together to remodel the shop. There will be some overhead doors, a floor drain, some new restrooms to meet all the code over there, a furnace, break room, etc. At this time, the only thing I'm asking for is authorization to remove the sprinkler system. The $12,000 estimate on there is strictly the sprinkler system. If we want to keep it, that would be the cost, additional cost for the remodeling of that system alone. The total cost for a remodel is going to be roughly $150,000 to $175,000, and we're working on that. But the sprinkler system, I guess at this point, we will get zero credit from insurance. I believe there's a sheet in there, which we have contacted the insurance company. And so with knowing that, it's just going to be burdensome to us. It would be our recommendation, and the Public Works recommendation is to remove it.
With that, I'd be looking for a motion to remove the current sprinkler system. Neil, I see your hand is up.
Yes, and this would be done with the Public Works employees this winter. And with that, I'll make the motion to authorize removal of the current sprinkler system.
Okay, Paul, I see your hand is up. Paul, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I have this question for Ron. As it's going to cost about $1,500 a year to keep the. Where does the $1,500 plan?
we hold off on discussion, not trying to be rude, Paul, but we have a second on the motion before we get into any discussion.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I have a second by Gene. Then Ron, could you answer Paul's question, please?
If we would want to keep the sprinkler system, it would cost, yes, about $1,500 a year. And it was our recommendation that we do not keep it. If we do keep it, obviously, we would have to budget between the water, sewer, streets, and parks department.
That answers the question, Paul. It would sort of be budgeted between 4 different.
Yeah, it really doesn't, you know, when it says it's 1,500 a year, I'm just kind of wondering where those expenses come in.
Oh, sure. So I think the question, Ron, is what costs us $1,500 a year?
When you have a sprinkler system, you have to have it certified each year. And that is the cost of the certification, to have somebody come in and give you that certification.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, calling for the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion does carry. And with that, we'd be looking at a motion to remodel the shop at 111 Pomeroy. Is anybody willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to remodel the shop.
I have a motion by Brick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Phelan. Any discussion on that?
Nope, stop. Moves.
Okay. $12,000 on that.
No, that $12,000 is for if we do not decide to remove the sprinkler system. It would take $12,000 just to remodel the sprinkler. I'll be bringing the complete remodeling forward in the future.
Okay. So, well, we've had a motion and there's been a second. So, how about we just vote that down real quick?
Do that or we vote to remodel, no cost.
Can I withdraw?
All right, well, we'll just go real quick. Neil?
No.
Okay, Team?
No.
Megan?
No.
Paul? No. And it's a no for me. All right. Thanks for catching us, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to some of the more routine things now. Looking for approval of the annual conferences as listed on page 12. Generally, we set a number of conferences each year. Hopefully, these will go forward. I haven't heard anything about the conference in February being canceled yet, although I sort of suspect that none of us are going to be going to Plymouth. Jennifer has her hand raised.
Yeah, Sean, we need to go back to the Public Works Department surplus shop equipment before you go into the housekeeping items.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Let's back up and go into the surplus shop equipment. We have a rail with water system, an explosion-proof exhaust fan, and a refrigerator, all that came out of the shop that we don't need, and we'd be looking to designate that as surplus equipment. Ron, anything else we need to know about any of that?
No, those items are at this time surplus, and we would recommend having them declared as such.
I'll make a motion to declare the shop items as surplus property and authorize advertisements for sealed bids.
I have a motion by Phelan. Neil, your hand is up.
I will second the motion.
Okay. I have a second. I have a motion by Phelan, seconded by Newt Kurtzberg to declare the property as surplus. Any discussion? Okay, calling the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. That will carry 5-0. Jennifer, thank you again for catching that. Now going on to the city conferences. We're looking for a motion to approve the attendance of these without having to specifically come and approve each of them with their schedule. Gene?
I'll make that motion.
Neil has a motion by Soini. Is there a second? And Neil.
I second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the attendance, including registration, mileage, expenses, and per diem of the city administrator and any council member to the events listed on page 12 of our agenda. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, call the vote. Neil.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Okay. That does carry unanimously. Moving on then to item E, the liquor store lease. Looking to assign another annual lease with the same payment terms as last year. Bill, anything else we need to know about that?
No, everything stayed the same payment-wise, everything's still the same.
Would be looking for a motion to approve the lease agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Phelan. Any discussion on that? Okay. Calling the vote. Neil.
Aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Same. Paul. Aye. Aye for me. That does pass 4-0. Okay, looking to set the IRS, or the mileage rate at the IRS rate of 58.5 cents a mile, effective January 1 of 2022 through the end of the year. Something that we do annually. Anybody willing to make that motion?
Sure.
Okay, I have a motion by Soini. Neil.
Second.
Motion by Soini, seconded by Fishburne to set the IRS mileage rate. Any discussion? Okay, Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. That's an aye from me. Okay, that does carry unanimously. Then we have the election of the mayor pro tem. Gene said this last year. Duties are you get to play mayor if I can't be here, and you get to come in and sign checks. When I know that the city and something needs to be signed, say okay. Anybody willing to volunteer?
I can do it again.
Okay.
Done it many times.
Anybody willing to nominate Gene?
I'll make the motion to elect Gene Soini as mayor pro tem.
Okay, I have a motion by Phelan, seconded by Brick. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the vote. Neil? Aye. Dean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And I'm an aye as well, 5-0 on that one. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the designating depositories of funds. It's resolution 2022-01. Again, an annual housekeeping item. If there are any questions, Tara can speak to it. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to approve. Gene?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2022-01, designating depositories of funds, designating a chief financial officer, and establishing a voting bank.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Phelan. Neil, your hand is up.
Not anymore.
Neil's trying to follow my rules and bring his hand to be called on. I appreciate it, Neil. All right, so I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Phelan, to approve resolution 2022-01, designating depositories of funds, designating a chief financial officer, and establishing the authority to act. Any further discussion? Okay, calling the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan? Oh, aye. Megan, you were an aye, correct? You cut out a little bit. Okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up. Thank you. And then it's an aye for me as well. That does carry 5-0. Going on to page 21. We have the 2022 member board appointments. They stayed the same with the change that I swapped Paul and Neil from budget and finance and policies and procedures. Neil has promised not to murder me. Neil, your hand is up.
Thank you very much. I'll do my best. And with that, I'll make the motion to approve 2022 council member board appointments as presented.
Thank you. Is somebody willing to raise their hand for a second?
A second.
Paul, okay? So I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Phelan to approve the 2022 council member board appointments as presented. Any further discussion? Call the vote, Neil.
Aye.
Okay, Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. Before I declare that carries, Jennifer's raising her hand.
And I just wanted to double check who seconded that motion.
So that was seconded by Paul Field.
Thank you.
And then that does carry unanimously. So on to page 2022, the city board member appointments. No changes to this, aside from Paul Phelan and Neil Hertzberg again. Is there a motion on the city board appointments?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2022 city board member appointments.
I have a motion by Paul Phelan, is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Megan Brett. Any discussion on that? Calling the vote, Neil? Aye. Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. There's an aye for me, that does carry unanimously. Okay, on to item K, motion to approve resolution 2022-02, naming Contact as our city data practices official.
I make the motion to approve resolution 2022-02, appointing data practices compliant official.
Neil, your hand is also raised?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I have a motion by Paul Phelan, seconded by Jean Soini to approve resolution 2022-02. Any further discussion on that? None. Okay, I'll call the vote. Neil? Aye. Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye for me, that does carry unanimously. Okay, item L, the city assignments and appointments on page 27. No changes to these. Is there a motion to approve the assignments and appointments as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2022 city assignments and appointments as presented.
I have a motion by Jean Soini. Can I have a second? Megan?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you for raising your hand. All right, I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Blair. Any further discussion? Calling the vote, Neil.
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And Paul? Aye. And it's an aye from me, that does carry 5-0. Okay, changing our meeting date on December 26th, bumping it to the day after. Jennifer, I assume this was the only date conflict that we have coming up?
Looking ahead, that was the only day that I found. There's always, unforeseen circumstances, but right now, yeah.
Other than that, that's fine. Good. All right. So at this point, we'd be looking for a motion to reschedule the city council meeting. I don't see any hands raised. Neil?
I'll make the motion to reschedule the meeting.
Dean, I appreciate it, but Megan got you first.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll second.
Yeah, motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Beck, as stated on the action sheet. Any further discussion? Calling the vote, Neil. Aye. Jean.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul. Aye. It's an aye for me. Okay. Then we have our resolution 2022-03 regarding certificates of deposit, savings accounts, money market accounts, authorizing who is taking action in these things, designating assignments and such. Is there a motion to approve? Jean?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2022-03 regarding certificate of deposit, savings account, and money market accounts.
Very good. Motion by Soini. Neil? Second. I have a second by Hertzberg. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. Neil? Aye. Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye for me. That does carry unanimously. Motion 2022-04, allowing for wire and automated bank payments. Again, an annual motion as part of our administrative cleanup. Is anyone willing to make the motion to approve the resolution? Jane?
Make the motion to approve resolution 2022-04, allowing wire or automated bank payments.
Here, I have a motion by Soini. Do I have a second? Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a second by Brett. Any further discussion on the motion to approve resolution 2022-04? I'll call the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. It is an aye for me. Thank you, everyone. That does carry unanimously. Okay. Now for something that finally affects Andy. He's been patiently sitting there all night long. The appointment of the fire department officers. I see you were not removed from office, sir.
That is correct. On for another 2 years.
Well, we all got our hopes, but here we are. Jennifer, your hand is up.
I just want to confirm with Andy that the finance officer is Matt Ellison. That was a question mark.
Yes, at this time, it's still Matt.
Thank you. So we would be looking for a motion to approve the fire department officers as stated on the action sheet. Neil? You're muted, sir.
Yes, I want to thank Andy and all the firemen for what they do. With that, I'll make the motion to appoint the following fire department officers: Chief Andy Swain, Assistant Chief Mike Stern, Secretary Chris Price, Finance Officer Matt Ellison, Captain John Fultzer, First Lieutenant Justin Ruby, Lieutenant under 10 years of service Chris Price, Training Officer Shane Schmidt.
You have a motion by Hertzberg. I see Paul and Megan's hands up, but Megan, I saw yours first. Megan.
I'll second.
Okay. Paul, were you just going to second?
No, I was not. I was going to wait till there's further discussion.
Okay, I will open it for discussion. Paul?
This one's for Andy. Are there any changes from last year?
Yes, we Justin Logie moved from the lieutenant that was under 10 up to lieutenant, and we added Chris Price as lieutenant. But Chris Price was secretary last year, and Roger Torberg had resigned. So John Polzer moved from lieutenant to captain. I think that's all of it. So yes, actually everybody moved around except for Mike and myself.
Sounds good. Thanks. That's what I was looking for.
Andy, are there any issues with Chris serving dual roles?
No, it's been done in the past before. Roger actually served as secretary and captain for about 25 years, I think, or 21 years. There's really not an issue with these two roles at this time.
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing seeing none, I'll call the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
And just to clarify, the vote is on the motion to accept the officers and appoint the officers as stated on the action sheet. I have the motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Brett. Aye from Neil, aye from Gene, Megan.
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you. That's very unanimously. And I will echo Neil's comments to our thanks to the officers for stepping up and volunteering for those unpaid roles. Check signing authority and procedures, resolution 2022-05. We're looking for a motion to approve this resolution. Gene?
Make the motion to approve resolution 2022-05 regarding check signing authority and procedures.
Thank you. Neil? Second. I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Hertzberg, to approve resolution 2022-05 regarding check signing authority and procedures. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye for me. Thank you, everyone. Then we'd be looking for a motion to approve the 2022 fee schedule. The last motion did pass. changes to any of these fees from last year? I didn't see any.
Yes, actually, there is. You'll notice that the dog and cat licensing fees have been removed, as well as the duplicate tag fee. And you'll also notice that all the water and sewer rates have been updated in accordance with the resolution that we passed at the end of December.
We'd be looking to pass the updated license and fee schedule. Gene?
Make the motion to approve the 2022 fee schedule.
Okay, I have a motion by Soini. Do I have a second? Very good.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Brick, to approve the 2022 fee schedule. Any discussion? None. Okay, calling the vote. Neil? Aye. Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. It's an aye from me. That does carry unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Back to Andy, then, the purchase of the Cascade system. You know us about this, sir.
When we got the new SCBA's, we had to upgrade our Cascade system to, I believe it's a 5200 PSI. The previous Cascade system was 2500 PSI, or right around there. Don't quote me on those numbers. So we had to get new bottles, and they came in and had to do a service to the machine to make it capable of producing that kind of pressure. The new packs are a high pressure pack, or did I say that right? Basically, it's a 45-minute bottle versus a 25-minute bottle that we used to have. So we need higher pressure, more air in the tank, so what that would be. The cost, I don't have in front of me, but it was approximately $9,500, or if you have it right there.
The sheet says $9,420.
There you go. Thank you. So the upgrade was, we had to do the upgrade in order to fill our packs. So that's where we're at this point.
And it's, according to our sheet, the city would be fronting this money, and then the Relief Association will be reimbursing the city.
That is the hope at this time. We have to approve that through the fire department at this point. The bill came to a little bit of a surprise to me. I didn't realize it was going to be as large as it was. So the idea is, yes, that is what's going to happen. Currently, it's going to come out of our small equipment, and then the relief will reimburse it.
Okay. So with that, we'd be looking for a motion to authorize the payment of $9,420 to Alex Air Apparatus to be paid. Neil?
I'll make the motion to approve the payment of $9,420 to Alex Air Apparatus to be paid from the Capital Improvement Small Equipment Fund.
Thank you. Paul?
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion by Neil, seconded by Paul, to authorize the payment of $9,420 to Alex Air Apparatus paid from the Fire Department Capital Improvement Small Equipment. Any further discussion on this? Hearing and saying none, I'll call the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And I agree, that does carry unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to item T, the local Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting date. They would like us to meet on Thursday, April 7th. 3 of the 5 of us are trained. The training is pretty quick and easy. Paul and Megan, if you guys want to do that, Jennifer can help you with instructions. Jennifer, your hand is up before I call James.
Yes, this is typically the same time of the same week and the same day that we usually have it in the past. So just so you know, that's kind of the calendar that we're on.
I'll make the motion to set the 2022 local Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Neil? All right, I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Pittsburgh, as on the action sheet. Jennifer, I saw your hand going up and down. Is that intentional?
No, I'm just practicing.
Okay, I think we're not missing something from you. All right, Paul, is there a discussion?
Oh, yeah, just about Jennifer, I'd be interested in doing that training.
Me too.
Okay, I'll just put you down in my notes and I can send you the link.
March? Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
It's an aye for me, that does pass, thank you everyone. All right, we tabled the wage study proposal at the last meeting, wanting to get some more information on you on how that would look, how it would work. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
This is from DDA, and it's designed to be an annual process. What they didn't do last time, and they had them split out in addition, was they had Public Works together with City Hall and Liquor Store, and what I wanted to have is have it separate out, or make it separate. So we now have 3 different pay groups. It will be the Police Department, Public Works, and then City Hall, all other, which will include Liquor Store. We get to choose each year which one we want to do, and it will be for the ongoing fees that they outline in there.
Could you talk a little bit about the ongoing fees? That's where we had some questions last time, as far as whether this was an ongoing maintenance for all positions, or what exactly we're getting into, and how this differentiates from the wage studies we've done in the past.
It's an ongoing fee. I think they listed, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's $4,000 as the maintenance fee, and then the separate wage study per department per year. And then in the past, I don't have the number in front of me either, but I think the past wage study that we did was over $12,000.
So as I'm reading this, it's a minimum of $4,000 per year plus $4,500 or $2,500.
Yep, that's correct.
So over a 3-year period, this is going to be about $20,000 rather than the $12,000 that we paid before.
Yes, but it will be more, but it comes out to be an annual. Every year you get a different wage study for a different department.
The big cost difference, what's your recommendation? Karen, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is that we go with them.
Despite the cost difference?
I think that, well, first of all, I should have had the actual study from the previous one, but I remember it being around 12,000. I could go back to them and see what we can do trying to reduce the cost somehow before we formally approve it, since there is no rush to it.
I mean, an $8,000 increase is a bit steep for me. I don't know what anybody else thinks. I don't see any hands going up. Neil?
Yeah, I have a little problem. I'm sure this wasn't budgeted in 22 budget, was it?
No, we don't have a budget for it.
Yep, Neil? You're muted, sir.
I guess I wouldn't have a problem if we implemented it in 23 and budgeted for it.
Paul, was your, raise your hand?
Yes, I did. It's my understanding that the wages are pretty well protected under the union bargaining agreements, and to do this every year seems kind of redundant to do that when the city already seems to know which direction they're going in. And, I like this idea, but it seems like what you said, Sean, is that it's a little steep, and resonating on what Neil said. If this wasn't budgeted, maybe we should do it when it is budgeted and then take it from there.
If that's the case, then, because I do think DDA will do a good job at it, if that's the case, then we just signed new contracts with the unions, So I think it would be wise then to, before the renewal of the upcoming contract, we do a wage study before that, if you want to hold off now, and then that way it's a few years out and we can budget for it.
Muted, sir.
What was that?
I agree 100%, and before our next contract, we do need to do the wage comparisons and try to keep our employees and to keep them happy and satisfied.
Bill Ludwig, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
You have access to the city treasurer to ask her if she knows how much the wage study was?
I do not. She is, she's already Valerie.
Oh, well, what the heck? Jennifer?
If you don't say too much when I'm gone, I'll run to the file until I can find it.
I promise none of us will say a word until you tell us that you're back.
Talk about the weather.
Talk about how fascinating it is to see where everybody lives.
Well, Andy was at the fire hall. Just so I tell you, that mess wasn't his house.
Chuck and Ron live in an area that looks a little too, commercial.
Industrial.
I'm surprised Chuck is still awake.
I'm definitely still here.
Okay.
Hey, Todd, can you show us Bernie's picture since she's on? We're waiting for Jennifer to come back.
Yes, I was going to say this to them, but you guys were supposed to see this when you came in here today, but we have artwork that is hung around City Hall. Let me see if I can show you. Those are the first two. One is of the, one is of a wildlife picture, and one is of the carnival. We head over here. It's kind of hard to see down there. But two more on that side, one on the other side over there, and then we have three other pictures that are more towards the D&D end of things. But that's from our local artist, Bernie Stang. She donated her time and effort, as well as with her colleague in getting this done, and they also donated part of the cost for doing this.
We didn't know you were going to make us all do the same.
Okay, I'm back if you are interested.
We are back and we are interested, and I promise you we talked about nothing business first while you forgot.
I actually heard it. So it looks like when I looked under the account payable under Baker Tilly, looks like we did a wage study final bill in March of 20 for $11,405.68. And then we also paid them $2,500 in February of 21. I'm not quite sure. Let me see if I can find any more detail on that one. We paid them to do some job evaluations, so we paid them an additional $2,500. So it looks like a total between those 2 years of 13,900.
Yeah, 14,000.
And did we pay them anything prior to that last 11-hour bill?
Well, if we billed Baker Tilly, it would have came up. So I'm not seeing anything unless it was under somebody different. Maybe it was under her personal, name.
I think for tonight's purposes, it's fine. That's, I mean, jumping from even 13,900 to 20,000 over the course of 3 years for me is too steep of a jump. I think we should look at alternatives and try and negotiate this lower. If anybody wants to make a motion to approve this, I would certainly entertain it. Otherwise, I'm thinking we just let it die until Target wants to bring it back in some way, shape, or form. Seeing no objection to that, then I'm going to move on. The next item on our agenda is the D resolution, which we have already passed, so that is done. Going then into back to the COVID-19 update. There's just a couple of things that we did not talk about when Brandon and Dr. Mathias were here. One, I'm kind of glad that we did it because it gave us a chance to see how the meeting works, because it's a question of do we still want to have our working session on the 13th, knowing that we'd be meeting remotely. There's a number of items on there. It's a pretty lengthy agenda, including a discussion for people coming in from the library room. Neil?
I guess I would like to postpone the work session till we're out of this, if it's a 2 or 3 week COVID window, let's postpone 3 weeks and see where we're at.
Peter, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, that was my thought, that we can postpone it for a while and see when things get better. It'll be easier to discuss.
Okay. Jennifer?
Okay, so maybe you're not ready to do this, but if we look at 3 weeks out, we're looking at, the week of the 24th or the week of the 31st, which is also the first week in February. We do not have a city council meeting until the 14th of February with an extra week in there. Is there any dates that you are thinking about? We could put it on the calendar so we can let those participants know that we possibly rescheduled barring no uptick.
I think we have to go out into at least February. Gene, I see your hand is up again.
Well, my first thought was the 31st because we don't have any other meetings that week, but I'm fine with waiting till February.
The only reason I say going out that far is I think they said that they're forecasting a peak around the end of January.
Right.
Paul?
I'm open for it anytime.
Megan, do you have any preference?
No, other than just postponing it, I don't really have any preference as to when it is.
Okay. And Neil, I saw that your hand came up right after I called on Megan, but right as I was.
February 2nd or 3rd? What one of those two is good for everybody?
Are we still thinking we might go to the Plymouth thing? Isn't that the 3rd? Or am I wrong?
No, that's the 4th and 5th.
Oh, okay.
Jennifer, your hand is up.
Well, I was just thinking if you were going to move into February, I guess that's probably the busiest month for the city.
With the audit.
Between the audit and a motor vehicle, I would prefer then if we just moved it to the first week in March. We have an extra week in there that we don't have council. We don't meet until March 14th. So possibly we could meet March 2nd or 3rd. Maybe the 2nd, it's a Wednesday, that's Ash Wednesday.
Oh.
Maybe, or maybe the 7th or the 8th of March.
The first week of March works better for me. Ash Wednesday does not, but the 9th works better for me than those dates in February. Neil, I see your hand is up again. Nope, it's down now. Okay. Paul, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, wondering if there is a possibility, I have a surgery coming up February 8th, and I don't know how else I'm gonna end up. I most certainly could try to make it, after February 8th, but I can't make any promises. but I'd like to be present. Would I still be able to Zoom?
I would think that we'd be able to find something.
Okay.
Would it work best then to look at that first week of March for you?
It would be, because it'll be a month out by then. Hopefully I'm getting around.
Okay. So if we shoot for March 9th, that puts us, it's the second week of March. We should be over any sort of COVID peak by then, by all the forecasts. Jennifer?
The 9th, you have your infamous policies and procedures.
No, that can be, that's fine, we'll cancel that. I don't want Neil to get too disheartened with that committee before he gets really acquainted to it.
Well, I should be the one laughing.
Well, if that is a consensus, I could easily remove policies and procedures for the sake of Neil and put council in there.
We can do both.
Have you looked at the agenda for the working session?
That's, yeah.
Over full.
Maybe,
Okay, so,
yeah, just maybe we should look at doing something like a day retreat or something, and just go somewhere and try and get it, hash it out all afternoon or something.
Yeah, that may not be a terrible idea to see if there's a way to book out a conference room at a Bundy or something.
Yeah. Or even a hotel here in town or something.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just, for right now, is somebody willing to make a motion to put us, to move the working session to March 9th at the same time? And then we can explore the alternative of an all-day retreat, depending on what COVID and everything does.
Let's put that on the agenda. Retreat. And, yes, March 9th will be fine.
Okay. Are you making the motion to move it?
I am.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Second by, okay, so I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Soini, to move the working session to March 9th at the same time, and staff will look into alternative options to give us more time to discuss everything. All those in favor, sorry, I can't do it that way. Neil? Aye. Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye for me, that will carry unanimously. Okay. The other thing COVID related, based on everything from Centricare, primary thing to copy, I knew that our hospitals were getting full. I didn't realize that they were in an active situation of rationing care and making decisions on how urgent the surgery is, or actually scheduling it. My understanding from the presentation last week of Dr. Mathias is that if it's not a life-threatening emergency surgery, it's not happening right now. Brandon made a comment to me earlier today when I called to confirm he could be here, that they were hoping they could find a bed for somebody in the hospital. In fact, they weren't quite sure if that person could make it because of bed availability. So I toyed with the idea on Friday of issuing a state of local emergency. Ultimately decided against it. Eric wanted to do some additional research into what that meant. Most of you were not on the council when we did our last COVID emergency, so I'll just refresh recollections. And Jennifer and Eric, please tell me if my understanding is wrong. But our declaration of an emergency does not give me or even the city any powers to just unilaterally enact things. I did send out the guidelines for tonight's meeting, sort of as presiding officer. I don't know if they're binding on any of us, but I thought it would make things easier for control of the meeting. But the declaration of emergency gives Tarek the ability to order things he might need without having to go through council for every little purchase is really the biggest thing that it does. But I think while that might be the tangible effect of a declaration, it also has the effect of raising awareness of just how dire the situation can be. So I did not sign one, but there's a part of me that still thinks, given we're looking at situations where our hospital is at that crisis levels of care, where we're rationing out healthcare to who scores highest on the point chart, it's time we start thinking about that. If I would sign one, we'd have to get back here within 72 hours and vote on it. So we would have been voting on continuing one if I had signed it. So I guess right now I'd ask for some discussion on whether or not we want to enact one as a council. And if we do, then I'd call for a motion.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to continue this, because we don't know when we're gonna end up with this, and we hate to backpedal and scramble to try to get this to go through where we could easily do it right now without any consequences per se. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob.
Could we clarify again what exactly that entails, just so I know when I'm explaining it to people?
Because that's something that you feel comfortable answering while I try and pull up the resolution language.
I'm sorry, you asking me?
Yeah, do you feel comfortable talking about what exactly emergency does for us?
So like you stated, I mean, it does allow you to do some, basically allows CAR to do some things like buying supplies and stuff like that without council action. If you would declare an emergency, it doesn't necessarily, change anything. It could send a message. If you look at other, like St. Paul or Minneapolis, their mayors declared an emergency, and with that did a mask mandate, but their ordinances specifically allow for that, the way I understand it. I don't believe ours do anything like that. So, but yeah, also you would recommend if you would, you have the authority to declare the emergency, and by it only lasts for 3 days, council would have to approve it. I mean, just like you stated, if the council wanted to do it today, that would prevent having to come back if that's the route you plan on going anyway.
But just so that everyone can see, this is the resolution that Jennifer had prepared at my request last year, when a number of city employees had COVID. I asked her to prepare a local declaration for me to consider. So this is what I would have signed had I done something on Friday. And then that off. Back to this. And then this is the resolution. What it does is it declares that the resolution or that the emergency is in effect until further action. City staff is authorized to enter into agreements and contracts necessary for the procurement of materials in order to respond to the local emergency. That the mayor and city administrator is authorized to execute any agreements regarding the local emergency. Staff is authorized to take appropriate action to prepare any documents. And the mayor, acting city administrator, city staff, city attorney are authorized and redirected to take any and all additional steps to accomplish the intent of the resolution. Effectively, like Eric and I said, it just gives us the power to act, to order supplies meant to address the emergency. It doesn't really change much from a city operational standpoint. I think the effect is symbolic more than anything else. I think it does just show how serious this is. Jean?
Yeah, I guess it could go two ways, because it could also be a negative as far as the outlook from the public, us trying to do something overstepping maybe. I guess I'm just not thinking it's necessary at this time.
Okay. Paul?
That's just my feelings.
Yep. I just have a different opinion with that, where I know that a lot of the residents in the city think that City Hall is not being transparent enough. And if we were to include this, where they could actually read it in the press or online or wherever, that we're doing something on their behalf, it would show that we're trying to keep them in the loop instead of trying to do this stuff not behind their back, but what they might think is behind their back. That's all I had to comment on that.
Yes, I'm not entirely against it, but the one thing, and I'm not who or what, but as a city, I think we need to encourage the mask mandate across town, every store, business, church, school events. I don't want to see basketball games end, but I don't think it hurts if everybody there has a mask. Same way at church. I want to keep things open, but the mask mandate is not out of line with where we're at, so I guess that's my comment.
So the consensus I'm hearing is no state of emergency right now, but let's keep it on the radar.
Yep.
I'm seeing heads nod, and I don't hear a motion otherwise, so, okay. All right, then with that, I don't think we have any further business. Jennifer, am I missing anything? I just want to make sure that we got everything covered.
We do have everything covered that's in the agenda, but I don't know, I'm kind of putting Bill Ludwig on the spot. Bill, did you want to address anything regarding liquor store staffing?
Sorry, I was thinking one minute. Right now, we're doing okay, but did we authorize the last meeting that went through January 1st, didn't it, for, if we get really short-handed, the people who work up to 40 hours?
So the last action the council took was we could increase our 32-hour workers up to 40 hours through January 1st, but that has now expired. And in light of what we just encountered the last 10 days, then we want to adjust that.
Well, I guess where does everybody stand on that? Last week we were down to 3, and we survived. This week we've got everybody back but 2.
Is that out because of illness?
Yes. One staff member is going back to college end of the week. She is currently out already, illness. So, we're holding our own. And last week I didn't have much choice but to give a little overtime to one staff member because we didn't have anybody else. So, does the council, are they okay with me making those decisions, or do we need to make a resolution on that? Just so we're properly staffed. I mean, we ran a little bit short last week. We did the best we could.
You're not sounding great yourself, if I do dare say so myself.
Well, it must be the speaker.
You're sounding a little stuffed up.
No, just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it my understanding that we already gave Bill the latitude to go ahead and hire? Have him go through council?
Yes.
Okay, I would be forward you hiring more staff, even if it's just part-time.
Well, that's what we're looking at. Right. We had interviews set up for this week. They're now postponed until next week.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I believe that your help there is going to start feeling the pains of a burnout if we don't do something.
I'm concerned about that. We're seeing that in our industry a lot.
Okay.
Bill? Yes, I'm wondering, Bill, if this is something we need to look at, hours of operation, like many restaurants and different businesses, when you can't get help, you have to adjust your hours. And yeah, I don't want to give less hours means less sales and profit. We don't want that either. But what is your opinion there?
So I believe that last resolution we passed, Tarek and I had the opportunity to visit and to change hours as we needed if something came up in an emergency. Right now I'm looking at changing possibly Thursday going until 9 o'clock. But we've been able to maintain, I'd like to close earlier on Sundays, but it's crazy how busy we are from 11 to 12 and from 3 to 5. So it's, yeah, we could close between 1 and 3 would be great. So, but those are some changes I'd like to look at in going forward. But that was between, Tarek and I were going to have that discussion. So.
Okay, that sounds good to me, but just an option to keep
our computer system gives us the options. It tells us what hours are busy. I can tell how many transactions we have per hour. It pretty much tells you everything you need. I rely on that a lot. So, Megan, I don't know how busy it was yesterday. Okay.
We weren't that busy yesterday. It was pretty slow. So, and it's hard with the Sunday hours because I don't know. It is pretty busy from 5 to 6 normally, but I'm not sure if it's busy because of the actual time or because that is the last hour open and people start to realize that and come in. So
that's why I'd like to look at 5.
Yeah, it might be that if we start closing at 4, or at 5 instead of 6, that 4 to 5 would then become that busy hour instead. Right. Since it's not like most people are not getting off of work at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, whereas at 5 o'clock on weekdays it's busier because people are coming from work. So.
Right. And I do monitor our competitors' hours, so we are just a little bit longer than they are.
Gene, you're in the first.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, in the long term, we need more employees, but in the short term, we need to increase hours so that they're covered, because Bill was going to burn out. He missed his vacation last week. So.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Oh, I would get you, but Eric is getting your hands up, and sometimes your comments might be a little more pertinent to what's immediately happening, so turn to you first here.
Surprisingly, my comments aren't that important, but I was just curious if you, looking at the agenda, I didn't think you could have any more questions for you. I'm getting a text, so I need to pick up my children to get into bed.
I think we're okay.
You didn't think you needed me, I'd request to leave, I guess.
No, I think we're good. Thanks for being here.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks. All right. Paul, you have to comment?
Yeah, the only comment that I have is that if you start to reduce the hours, people are not aware of it. You're going to have some upset customers, which is why I think it might be a good idea to go ahead and maybe try to get some more part-timers in there, if at all possible. That will give relief to the people that put in their 40 plus, also keep the customers happy, and on the other hand too, Bill, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea for you to look at promoting someone to a assistant manager to take some of the heat off of you.
I think that's coming in the very near future.
Okay.
Actually, that was on my goals for the year, was to sit down and start penciling that out, just to get some relief. But the more people you have, the better it is to schedule, because everybody's part-time wants the same time off. Seems like, and that's just the way it is with part-time. You know, we had applications out from Thanksgiving through, I just pulled the sign down last week, and we gave out almost 18 applications and got 4 returned. So everybody's looking, and I knew nobody was going to return their application before the holidays, because they didn't work over the holidays. That's just the way it is in retail. So I was not surprised. Now we pick up another one today. So we've got 4 candidates to interview right now. So that's a win. That's a huge win. So, and you know, the only thing I haven't done is go around and offer business cards to other businesses in the area to try and pull staff in, but I don't like to do that. So that's not all right.
Again?
Other thing with hiring too is that it's a while before, it's not super long, but before new hires can work alone anyway. So while I know that the liquor store is looking at that, it doesn't solve, you know, like what happens in the next few weeks if we get hit really hard, or those of us with children, our kids get hit hard, we're at school, and then we have to be home, and, you know. So I know that we're looking at hiring Bill, but, you know, as Bill said, but I think that, you know, it doesn't help in the next 3-4 weeks when it gets really tough, as, you know, those people won't be ready to work alone anyway.
Yeah, the industry, the part-time industry is just, workers are just not out there right now. That's you know, that's nationwide, and they see the same thing we are. So it finally just hit us, you know, in the last 6 months. So we've been pretty darn fortunate, I think. So.
Well, I think a motion authorizing Bill Ludwig to increase hours of employees up to 40 hours per week in consultation with the city administrator until the end of March would be appropriate, along with making determinations as to appropriate store hours.
Good motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Soini. Neal.
Second.
I have a second by Hertzberg, motion by Soini, second by Hertzberg, to authorize the liquor store manager along with the city administrator to increase employee hours as needed and reduce hours in the liquor store through the end of March of this year. Any further discussion on that? Okay, I'll call the vote, anticipating an abstention. Neal.
Aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Megan.
Amy?
Paul. Aye. And it's an aye for me, so that's a 4-0 vote with 1 abstention. And let's see, you're doing interviews next week, so hopefully that will get us some relief before the expiration of that, and we don't need to revisit.
But
Got it.
thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Got it. Anything else COVID related? Jennifer, your hand is up again.
We have a staff meeting tomorrow, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the council protocol moving forward regarding masks. So as long as we're on any city property, leased property, in any city building, all employees are required to wear a mask unless you're in an office where if you shoot glitter, you don't touch anybody else. And then our customers, we're going to offer masks, we're going to offer hand sanitizer, we're going to put our stickers back down, we're going to social distance, kind of like the previous COVID protocols. We're going to encourage mask wearing, but we're not going to refuse any service.
That's my understanding of everything, yes.
Okay, because I don't think through motor vehicle we can actually refuse service.
Yeah, no, that's my understanding. Our Centrex had nodding throughout that as well, so I think that's his view as well. Okay. Then with that, we just have our informational, our Xcel Energy requesting to increase their fees. I'm sure Centerpoints will be coming next because they don't know how to budget for the cost of propane down in Texas. Then we have the library fines, fine-free and new hours notice, along with our December police reports. Hearing nothing else, thank you everyone for a good meeting. Sorry that it went late. I think that this format is going to work out okay, but I do certainly look forward to getting look forward to getting back together in person. So thanks everyone. We are